Stay up to date on maternal health news reports and respond to what's going on. Hear from others and healthcare providers about their experiences. Welcome to the Maternal Health Report podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Maternal Health Podcast, the Maternal Health Report podcast. This is a brand new podcast that I started out of a need that I saw in the podcast sphere, as well as the digital sphere, as well as just my own life. So I started the Maternal Health podcast series here because I wanted to really go through some of the things that I saw floating around social media. And I felt like there wasn't one place and space where people could come, give your responses to some of the things that are going on in maternal health and have those responses be heard, and just create our own media around maternal health and share some of my experiences with postpartum depression and anxiety through all 6 of my pregnancies. Yes, I said 6. Yes, I said SIX, the number 6. So this podcast will really dive in deep into some of the stories that are floating around, some of the news stories that are out, some of my thoughts on those stories, and I'd love to hear your thoughts as well. So that's a little bit about why I started the podcast. So the podcast is really just about pulling in those different news stories that are floating around and some of my reactions to those stories and some of your reactions as well. So please go ahead and visit our page on Anchor, and that is at the Maternal Health Report podcast, and make sure that you send us in your responses to what's going on in maternal health. So our first story up today is better care for our OBGYNs. So this particular article was actually put out by the Dallas News. So dallasnews.com says their title here is "To Improve Maternal and Baby Health Care, We Must Take Care of OBGYNs." So most physicians experience burnout, which can compromise their ability to deliver top care. So good maternal care is key to healthy mother and baby, but what happens when those who provide healthcare are struggling with physical and emotional demands of their profession? The U.S. maternal health crisis has garnered attention in recent years, and groundbreaking study published this year in the journal Reproductive Health found 1 in 6 women are mistreated during labor and delivery. At that time, concern has increased over physician burnout, with some reports finding that obstetricians, gynecologists are at high risk, raising questions about whether maternal care can improve without more support for these doctors. Some 40 to 75% of OBGYNs experience burnout, a work-related disorder categorized by emotional exhaustion, depersonalization, and a low sense of personal accomplishment. It can overlap with depression, according to a 2017 report from the American Congress of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. Most general OBGYNs are pulled in a lot of different directions, said Meredith Davenport, an OBGYN and founder of the Provider Associate Care Team, an emotional support program for physicians in Austin. They're asked to be running a clinic with having to see more and more people each day because of the payment structure. OBGYNs are also covering labor and delivery, in which you don't have much control over when your patients need to be delivered and when they go into labor. And then frequently, you're always covering emergency rooms. It's a struggle to be able to do everything that we're asked to do. It requires superhuman skills, and more so today than it has in the past. And so this is kind of taking a viewpoint of the physician's health and how the physicians are actually handling and dealing with having to do all of their jobs as well as deliver the care that they need to deliver. So through our program, Woke Delivery, we talk a little bit about how you can deliver woke care, right? You know, being culturally competent, making sure that you are aware of the individual and what they're going through, all that good stuff. But then we very rarely take a glance back or take a step back and then really look at what the physician and the person that's delivering that care to the patient and the baby, what they're going through. So I really recommend that you take a look at uh, this article. It's from the Dallas Morning News, and that article will be up on our blog site. Next, we have up the Paris Magazine article. So I know it's a little bit off to follow this up with hospitals, or I don't know if it's off. It's not necessarily off, but it's a little, I guess, jarring to follow this up with hospitals after we just talked about everything that's going on with physicians. So hospitals and their cesarean rates. So Parents Magazine actually put out a whole article of the 22 hospitals to avoid if you do not want a C-section. So the 22 different hospitals that they listed, and the title of this particular Parents Magazine is "Don't Want a C-section? Avoid these 22 hospitals." A new study says some hospitals have cesarean rates that are well above national targets. So C-section rate is at an all-time high, and that's concerning since having a cesarean birth carries inherent risks for both mother and baby and has even been linked to long-term adverse health effects for children, including an increased chance that they will be obese and develop diabetes and asthma. Of course, some C-sections are unavoidable and promise the best outcome for mother and baby, but it's often theorized that certain doctors and hospitals have become C-section happy and may perform the procedures either prematurely or unnecessarily. By some estimates, as many as half of all the C-section could actually have been avoided. So, a report by Consumer Reports looks at which hospitals have the highest C section rates in the county. And if you're trying to avoid a C section, it's a list you really need to see. So, I'm going to go through and list all of the hospitals that they have on their or within their article that say that they have the highest C section rates. Number one, South Miami Hospital, Miami, Florida, has 51%. Richmond University Medical Center, Staten Island, New York, has 44%. Hackensack University Medical Center, Hackensack, New Jersey, has 43%. Women's Health of Texas, Houston, Texas, has 41%. Midland Memorial Hospital, Midland, Texas, 40%. Innova, okay, I'm not saying that right. Innova, Fairfax Hospitals, Falls Church, Virginia, 39%. Las Palmas Medical Center, El Paso, Texas, 39%. Texas Health Presbyterian, Hospital, Plano, Texas, 39%. Memorial Regional Hospital, Hollywood, Florida, 38%. Henrico Doctors Hospital, Richmond, Virginia, 37%. Doctors Hospital at Renaissance, Edinburgh, Texas, 37%. Baptist Hospital of Miami, Florida, 37%. Riverside County Hospital, Riverside, California, 36%. Bayshore Medical Center, Pasadena, Texas, 35%. Jackson Health System, Miami, Florida, 35%. Boca Raton Regional Hospital, Boca Raton, Florida, 34%. St. Joseph's Healthcare System, Peterson, New Jersey. I think that's New Jersey, 34%. Medical Center at Bowling Green, Kentucky, 34%. Baylor All Saints Medical Center at Fort Worth, Texas, 34%. Wesley Medical Center, Wichita, Kansas, 34%. Innova Alexandria Hospital, Alexandria, Virginia, 34%. Baptist Medical Center, San Antonio, Texas, 34%. So you can go to the Consumer Report site if you want to see the responses of each of the hospitals that made the list. It's not worth it's worth noting that no one is saying these hospitals are a bad place to deliver your baby. But if you are concerned about your risk factors for having a C-section, talk to your doctor ahead of your delivery. Make sure you understand your chances for a C-section birth and also know both your doctor's and hospital's policies regarding when C-sections are recommended or required. So this article is by Melissa Willits in the Parents Magazine. And it's also online, so you may want to take a look at that if you are in any of those states. Now, moving on into is insurance the answer? So, PBS Hour actually has an article up, and the title of the article is Greater Access to Medicaid Reduce High Death Rates for New Moms. 700 new moms die each year in the US. Could Medicaid help? The United States ranks as one of the most dangerous developed nations to become pregnant and give birth, especially for women of color. And data shows the life threatening risk doesn't end once mom and baby have left the hospital. Bipartisan legislation that is currently working its way through Congress aims to help lower these risks by ensuring that women have access to care longer after giving birth. Given the high incidence rates of potentially fatal postpartum health challenges, dubbed as part of the Mominous. Okay, I've never heard that word before, but check that out. Mominous. The Helping Medicaid Offer Maternity Services Act, or HR 4996, would extend Medicaid coverage to women without health care insurance for 365 days after she gives birth. An estimated 12% of African American women are uninsured in the U.S., nearly double the percent of white women who are without insurance. According to analysis from the Kaiser Family Foundation, Medicaid is the largest maternity care payer in the U.S., covering nearly half of all the births, and currently a new mother qualifies for coverage up to 60 days after delivery. Each year, federal estimates suggest 700 U.S. women die from pregnancy related complications. Among these mothers, more than half do not survive their baby's first year. Problems can include excessive bleeding, hypertension, preeclampsia, high blood pressure that leads to seizures that have not been detected in the hospital, as well as suicide or death linked to postpartum depression. So when babies are born, we stop paying attention to the mom, said Allison Stubbe, I think that's Stubbe, associate professor in the United of North Carolina's Department of Maternal Health and Care. She compared the issue to having a piece of wrapped candy with the baby being a sweet confection and the mom a wrapper. In other words, health policy is often tethered to the baby, experts say. Once the baby is no longer part of the mom, we lose track of the mom's health and focus on the newborn. And this is something that resonates completely with what I've been saying all along. I feel like that analogy probably came from something I said a couple of years ago. But anyway, so I used to talk about how chewing gum, and how you don't just take the chewing gum and chew the chewing gum and then throw it out, right? It's not like that. When you get pregnant, it's not like you can just take that chewing gum, which is the baby, and then it's like, okay, I'm done with that. I can move on. It's something that stays with you for a long, long time. And the fact that, majority of women that are passing are African American is a cause for concern. Now, this particular article mentioned later on Serena Williams, and how Serena Williams told Vogue that the nurse talked to believed she was just confused due to her pain meds and didn't really listen to her. And it really started that hashtag that went around social media, hashtag listen to Black women. Really understanding that each individual deserves individual care, and how we deliver that, or not how we deliver it, because I'm not a physician, but how physicians deliver that really is important. So definitely take a look at this article by the PBS Hour. It is up on our blog site. Next up, we have more doulas needed. So CNN actually went in and they had an article, Midwives, Doulas, Every Mother Counts Wellness. So we'll read a little bit of this to you and I'll come back with some commentary on that. Midwives, doulas could benefit births, but not all women have access. The car was packed with Hill supplies, an oxygen tank, hemorrhage drugs, umbilical cord scissors, stethoscope, and blood pressure cuffs, among other tools. Hill, a licensed and certified personal midwife and founder of Wadada Midwife Care in Albuquerque, New Mexico, was excited that on that day in March, the time had come to help Rose bring a baby girl into the world with an at home water birth. On the drive there, I become peaceful and grounded and focused on my job and what I'm there to do. And that's to make sure everyone's normal and safe, Hill said. At a healthy 41 weeks, Rose took deep breaths while sitting in a small pool filled with water in her living room. She shifted to her hands and knees, moaned and groaned, and then suddenly her baby girl was born. This was Rose's second pregnancy and birth. As part of the standard midwifery care that Hill provides, she checked on Rose weekly after the birth. Hill asked about Rose's bleeding, which is often experienced after delivery, and asked how Rose was feeling. Was she stressed or sad, among other questions? In that 6 weeks postpartum, where we lose a lot of women in this country, I'm doing a lot of follow up care. I'm there at 24 and 36 hours post birth after I've left and made sure everyone's stable. I'm there at day 3. I'm there at day 7. I'm 2 weeks there. I'm there 3 weeks if need be, 4 weeks, and 6 weeks, Hill said. Now Rose and her baby are doing well and thriving, but Hill said if she could wave a magic wand, she would wish for all women in the United States to receive that same level of postpartum care that she provided Rose's family. That's my magic wand, that everyone gets the access to midwifery care, that everyone has 6 weeks postpartum follow up. So I'm also going to go throw in there for doula care as well. So we have midwifery care, but also doula care throw in there as well, because I feel like, you know, if all women, and she's right, if all women had access to just having that follow up care, then how much better would we have? How much better would our moms be? Because let's just take this all in and just keep it 100% real. You're giving birth to a human. When you give birth to a human, there's gotta be some changes. Your body's gonna shift, your mind's gonna change. And that's the one thing that I always say. Not only your body changes, but your mind also shifts as well. And you need support. You need people to talk to. You need somebody to help you with that whole ordeal, that whole experience. People, as you're having a baby, and if you decide to either have a baby at home or have a baby at a hospital, in either environment, I mean, people are running around. There's, and sometimes when you do it at home, it may be even more of a calming situation because you may not have as many people in the room with you. So maybe a little bit more calming and relaxing. So let me say that. Since I have not had that experience, I won't speak on it. I'll only speak to the experiences that I've had with all 6 of my children in the hospital. So, to my experience, everybody's running around, everybody's waving their hands, everybody's yelling at you, you know, and it's just a total, oh my gosh, what is going on right now, And then you have this person that is coming out of you that you love, but you don't know, and you're like, oh my gosh. So it really is just an overall a battle in the hospital, and not to say that it's a negative battle. It's just your body's being ripped apart in one way. Maybe not ripped apart. Let me rephrase that. Your body is stretching a lot. And things are flying everywhere and fluid, and you're crying, everybody's crying, like there's so, and then you have all of these emotions. That's not taking into account any of the emotions that you're feeling through all of this. So there's a lot going on. So you definitely need someone to come in and just help you calm down, to bring you back to your center. And I feel like if I had had that with any of now, my husband was there with my birth, so he did a wonderful job to be who he was. However, if I had had someone in addition to that to come in, just be a support person, just get me back into center, to get him to sit down, or, to calm him down, and just be that kind of mediator in between both of the things that I was going through. Because at the same time that I'm worried about myself and I'm worried about this baby, I'm also worried about him. And okay, did he eat? Or, all those different things that I think a lot of women, when they are giving birth, they think of. So, with that all being said, we all need a support person when you are giving birth to a human. So, absolutely, I totally 100% agree that there should be someone else in this with you that can support you other than your spouse. So that is all I have for you today during the Maternal Health Report. I hope you thoroughly enjoyed this episode of the Maternal Health Report. We will be back again next week going over some of the things that I see going on. If you have any news that you'd like for me to read, if you'd like to partner and support the podcast, please go ahead and visit us online. Just go ahead and search Maternal Health Report, and you should see our Facebook page, or you can visit us on Facebook. You can also search for us on Instagram. You can follow me on Instagram at the Maternal Health Speaker. So find us on Instagram, find us on Facebook, and reach out to us via our blog site. And I hope to hopefully hear from you soon. By the way, while you're here, make sure you subscribe and you leave me a message if you're listening to this on Anchor. But if you're listening to this on Spotify, on Google Play, anywhere that you listen to podcasts, then go ahead and head on over to Anchor and respond to this episode. Let me know what you think about it. Let me know what you think about any of the stories that I read here, and make sure that you comment in on our blog site too, which is in the description of this podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next week on the Maternal Health Report.